Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Author by Flying Alone. Audio novels by Novelist. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 51. The Third Young Master of the Feng Clan. It was but a single instant, yet 5 elites of Element Gathering tier were all killed. Such was the might of the red-scaled dragon snake. The young man was so scared that his face had turned completely white and his whole body started shaking. He was not a genius of martial arts, and such a bloody scene caused him to almost throw up his billa. This caused Lu Dong and the others to break out into uncontrollable laughter. Compared with him, Lu Dong and his group were frequent visitors of various perilous and hazardous areas. There was a considerable number of martial artists and demonic beasts that have died by their hands. When the young man heard their mocking laughter, his face twisted, and pointing at him, he asked, "You dare to laugh at me? What about it? Heng, since my servants have all died, then you guys will be responsible for hauling this great serpent back for me," the young man commanded. Lu Dong and the others exchanged looks, wondering if there was something wrong with this guy's head. "How dare you? I am the third young master of the Feng clan of Da Yuan City, Feng Luo, and my elder brother is Feng Yan, a true disciple of the Huyang Academy," the young man screamed. Feng clan. Lu Dong and his group revealed expressions of dread. While they were all members of the younger generation of the great clans of Guo Rock Town, how could they be compared with the great clans of Da Yuan City? These great clans all had powerful warriors of Gushing Spring tier to watch over the clan, and were definitely no weaker than the Stone Wolf sect. Moreover, the elder brother of this Feng Luo was actually a true disciple of Huyang Academy, and that was really a terrifying fact. Huyang Academy was the assembly point of all the young geniuses of Rain Country, and the top 100 disciples all had a high chance of becoming powerful warriors of the spiritual ocean tier. Not to mention, what were true disciples? True disciples were the top 30 disciples of the academy. In their case, cultivating up to spiritual ocean tier was practically guaranteed. To oppose someone who would become a powerful warrior of the spiritual ocean tier in future. Who on earth would not feel fear in this kind of situation? Is this Feng Yan very powerful? Ling Han turned to Lu Yutong and asked. Very powerful. Lu Yutong nodded, her beautiful face revealing a serious expression. I heard that Feng Yan just broke through to Gushing Spring tier 3 years ago, and he was 20 years old at the time. Now, he is already at the peak period of the third layer of Gushing Spring tier, and chances are high that he would advance further in a very short period of time. Additionally, he's already succeeded in forming Saber Chi, and though it's unknown how many flashes he can form, it's definitely not less than 3 flashes. That was a shocking rate of progress. For an ordinary martial artist in Gushing Spring tier, it was already a very impressive feat to be able to advance 1 layer within 5 years. There were some that have spent 10 years and only managed to reach the next period, and for them, they would never be able to breach the high fence surrounding the 4th layer in their whole lives. Before a martial artist reached Flower Blossom tier, he would only have a lifespan of 100 years. As a result, if he wasted too much time on such a low-level tier like Gushing Spring tier, then his future prospects would naturally be limited. Feng Yan spent 3 years and managed to break through by 3 layers. If he maintained this kind of progression rate, then he'd be able to break through to spiritual ocean tier by the time he's over 30 years old, and possibly by the time he's 60 or 70 years old, he may even be able to advance 1 step further and break through to spiritual pedestal tier. At that moment, he deserved to be praised as a royal existence of Rain Country, because the strongest warriors in Rain Country publicly known were only in spiritual pedestal tier. Though there were rumors that there was an ancient freak who was even stronger and was the overseer of Rain Country who kept the country from falling. With such a calculation, Feng Yan's potential for greatness could be imagined. No wonder Feng Luo was so arrogant. Oh, Ling Han casually replied. He naturally did not think of Feng Yan as any kind of serious threat. He patted Lu Yutong's shoulder, smiled and said, I guarantee that you will become stronger than him. Lu Yutong nodded. She had full confidence in Ling Han and in herself. The cultivation technique she was practicing now was a heaven-grade cultivation technique, and together with her high-level heaven-grade spirit base, she did not lose to anyone in terms of inborn circumstances. Of course, there was no way she could compare to a freak like Ling Han. She did not know that there was still such a thing as a mortal-grade spirit base in this world, and had no idea that Ling Han was actually an Alchemy Emperor. By his side, she could completely become a pill bottle, relax in comfort and watch as her cultivation level kept climbing. Did you hear what I said? Quickly haul this red-scaled dragon snake back for me. Feng Luo said, extremely pleased with himself. Based on his past experience, as long as he announced his elder brother's name, the other party would immediately become very obedient. Ling Han shook his head, and said, I despise people like you the most. He strode towards Feng Luo. Big brother Ling, don't be too rash. Lu Dong and his group quickly said. They were really scared that Ling Han would do something like what he had done previously, and go on a murderous rampage. Don't worry, I just want to give him a good thrashing. Ling Han said with a smile. After all, Feng Luo only wanted to snatch their possession, and had no intention of killing anyone or any other kind of dirty thoughts. Otherwise, Ling Han would definitely not be merciful. You dare. Feng Luo could not help stepping back. Although they shared the same mother, Feng Yan was a genius of martial arts while he himself did not have any particularly significant talent in this field. It was as if all the essence had been absorbed by Feng Yan. Feng Luo himself was now only in the 9th layer of body refining tier, and this cultivation level was likely thanks to medicinal pills he had taken. However, he still had not managed to advance further. After all, green spiritual fruits were quite rare. So what if I dare? Ling Han raised his leg and kicked him. Feng Luo started to howl terribly, and after Ling Han gave him a few good kicks, Feng Luo's nose was bloody and his face was swollen. If he saw his own reflection in a mirror, he probably wouldn't recognize himself anymore. He did not even dare to leave any fierce words. He simply fled with his tail behind his legs. Ling Han split open the red-scaled dragon snake and carved out its roughly fist-sized inner core. It was as red as fiery flames. Lu Dong and his group, out of curiosity, all gathered and reached out to touch it, but once their hands came into contact with it, their expressions changed and they quickly retreated, gasping for breath. Only Li Hao did not retreat, but he had also immediately withdrawn his hand, as if he had been electrified. The red-scaled dragon snake possesses a thread of dragon blood, and can claim to be a king of a tier. It is well capable of suppressing martial artists and demonic beasts of the same cultivation level. Only those who have managed to form qi can resist it, Ling Han explained. If it had not been for this, then Lu Yutong, who had also been in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, wouldn't be completely at a disadvantage in a head-on clash with the red-scaled dragon snake. It was all because she was suffering under this suppression. But if she and the Great Serpent battled once more now, Lu Yutong definitely would not have been in such dire straits. This was because she had now managed to form sword qi and thus possessed the preliminary qualifications to battle the Great Serpent on an even footing. There were rulers of demonic beasts, and there were also rulers of human martial artists. As long as one managed to form qi, they could be considered to have begun their journey on the path towards being a tier's ruler. However, only those who have managed to form heart could proclaim themselves rulers. You guys remove the backbone of this snake. Technically, it can also be considered dragon's bones. The spinal cord is very effective in refining one's physique. Ling Han delegated the tasks to Lu Dong and his group while he and Lu Yutong once again entered the cavern. He still had to pluck the earth dragon grass, after all. Lu Dong and his group were all very excited. A strong physique meant that defense would also be upgraded. This was a real, solid benefit. They immediately started working in high spirits. Ling Han and Lu Yutong entered the cavern and advanced through the hidden passage. The environment here was very damp, and because the red-scaled dragon snake had been residing here for a very long time, there was a very powerful stench of blood hovering in the air. Thankfully, the passage was not very long, and very quickly, a gigantic cave appeared in a distance ahead. Found it. Ling Han found only one plant in the middle of the cave. The plant only had a single stem, completely without any branches or leaves. The stem was not straight. Instead, it wound and twisted, seeming like a divine dragon that was craning its neck in expectation of soaring towards the heavens. Earth Dragon Grass. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 52. Transcending Origin Pill. Ling Han was overjoyed. This stalk of Earth Dragon Grass was at least over 200 years old. It would not only become an ingredient for the Transcending Origin Pill, but also improve the effects of the completed pill. If this was how it was, then even if the other main ingredients he had on hand were a bit insufficient in age, this would compensate for it. He carefully dug out the Earth Dragon Grass. As long as the main stem was undamaged, the medical effects of the Earth Dragon Grass would not decrease. Additionally, it could also be preserved for a very, very long time. Congratulations, you are one step closer to the day of Uncle Ling's recovery, Lu Yutong said. She now also knew about how Ling Dongxing's spirit base had been crippled. Ling Han's face was filled with joy. If everything proceeded as smoothly as things had this time, then within 1, or maybe 2, years he could heal Ling Dongxing's spirit base and allow him to once again advance on the path of cultivation. The two of them came out of the cavern. While Ling Han got ready to start concocting the alchemical pill, Lu Dong and his group were boiling the bones of the red-scaled dragon snake. Aside from the inner core, the bones were the most valuable part of the great serpent. This can't be, this guy even knows how to concoct pills. When they saw Ling Han take out a very small alchemy furnace, the faces of Lu Dong and his group began twitching uncontrollably. He's really a monster. Yeah, his advancement in cultivation levels is inhumanely fast, and he's even managed to form 4 flashes of sword chi. But now, he can even concoct pills. I really don't know what else to say anymore. Forget it. Let's not compare ourselves with a freak. We won't compare anymore. Never again. The 5 of them continuously shook their heads. Even Li Hao, who had managed to form a flash of saber chi, shook his head, looking like a rattled drum. To compare yourself with a freak, wasn't that just seeking your own humiliation? Ling Han's alchemy techniques were a blur to their eyes. Currently, his origin power was abundant, so he did not need to keep taking pills during the concocting process. Additionally, the eruption effects of his 5 elements origin nuclei were astonishing, allowing him to control the furnace's heat even more smoothly and easily than before. After only 1 hour, he stopped his movements. The Transcending Origin Pill, done. There were 13 pills in total. This is the Transcending Origin Pill. Taking one would allow you to advance 1 layer, Ling Han said. He took 8 pills for himself, and handed the remaining 5 over to Lu Dong and his group. Theoretically, he only needed 2 pills to reach the peak period of the 3rd layer of element gathering tier, but the effects of this Transcending Origin Pill were tailored for single nucleus martial artists. Who knows if the 5 elements origin nuclei needed double or even more than that the amount. Thus, to avoid complications, he kept an additional 6 pills. Lu Dong and his group did not express any disagreement about Ling Han taking the lion's share of the rewards. Are you kidding? How much work had they actually done for this reward? They had only been responsible for capturing a bright wool sheep. Such an easy task, who on earth would fail at it? They knew very well that Ling Han had gifted them each with a Transcending Origin Pill because they had pointed out the location of the cavern to him. This was Ling Han's token of appreciation for their aid. Otherwise, who would be so generous to do such a thing? They didn't have such a close relationship after all. 1 pill would allow the one who consumed it to advance 1 layer. If this pill was sold, what kind of astronomical price would it be worth? Ling Han, Lu Dong, Li Hao and Zhu Zuyi immediately took their respective pills and proceeded to digest the effects while Lu Yutong was responsible for standing guard over them. Chen Pengju and Zhou Chang could only watch enviously from the side. Thankfully, the transcending origin pill wouldn't suddenly grow wings and fly away, so when they have broken through to element gathering tier, they'd also be able to use it. Ling Han sat down beside some bushes at one side. After he had consumed a transcending origin pill, the spiritual chi from all around him surged towards him. His 5 elements mix chaos lotus fluttered slightly and began to absorb the spiritual chi like mad. His cultivation level immediately began to shoot up. He had already reached the peak period of the first layer of element gathering tier, and under the large volume of concentrated spiritual chi, he immediately began to solidify the second origin nucleus. 5 pinpricks of light appeared from nothing, and slowly transformed into 5 rotating nuclei. Then, their speed of rotation gradually increased, and they quickly increased in size. It was also during this process that the space within his dantian also started expanding in order to accommodate even more origin power. The size of the space within a martial artist's dantian decided the amount of origin power a martial artist could store, thus it was very important. For Ling Han, its importance had increased by a few times because he possessed the 5-element origin nuclei, which granted him with power that exceeded his own actual cultivation level. However, the toll it took on his ability to store origin power was also naturally overwhelming. He required a space within his dantian that was at least a few times larger than other martial artists of the same cultivation level. Otherwise, he'd only be a one-trick pony, only able to display his overwhelming prowess once and very quickly becoming exhausted. Of course, as long as he managed to obtain first place in the Da Yuan tournament and get his hands on the Dark Moon grass, he'd be able to concoct the spatial pill. This was something even powerful warriors of heaven tier would be jealous over. To him, who was only in element gathering tier, how many times would the spatial pill expand the space in his dantian? The problem of limited origin power storage would thus be solved. The greatness of the immortal grade spirit base was fully evident here as the spiritual chi absorbed by his 5 elements mix chaos lotus was indescribably plentiful. The transcending origin pill stimulated the speedy growth of his origin nuclei, allowing his cultivation level to increase like crazy. Second layer of element gathering tier early, middle, late, peak period. The speed of his advancement was hair-raising. Ling Han nodded to himself. Although his origin nuclei was equivalent to 5 times of a normal person's origin nucleus, it did not expend additional medicinal effects. When he thought about it, it was natural. Although his origin nuclei was equivalent to 5 times a normal person's origin nucleus, he still had the immortal grade spirit base, so how fast would he be at absorbing spiritual chi? Immortal grade spirit base was originally synonymous with rapid cultivation rate, so how could it be possible he'd be held back by it? At this moment, the medicinal effects of the first transcending origin pill were completely used up. Ling Han opened his eyes and instantly felt a raging hunger. It seemed he had unknowingly been cultivating for a whole day and night. On another side, Lu Dong and the other 2 were also almost done with their cultivation. Their faces all revealed exhilaration, though they had each advanced to different stages. Lu Dong and Zhu Zuyi had reached the peak period of the first layer of element gathering tier, whereas Li Hao had reached the early period of the second layer. Their innate abilities differed, so there was also a difference in the results of absorbing the medicinal effects of the transcending origin pill. Ling Han was slightly optimistic about Li Hao. To be able to form saber chi at this age was proof of his great potential, and facts have also proved that he was talented. Ling Han decided to spare some time and effort to nurture this man. Perhaps, there would appear a saber king in future because of his decision. At this time, the bones of the red-scaled dragon snake were also done, and the essence of the bones had mixed with the soup. It was gold in color and produced a strange aroma. This is extremely nutritious. Come, 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 let's all have ourselves a grand feast. Ling Han gathered the others and started to distribute the soup amongst themselves. They had also grilled the snake flesh, and though its effects were far beneath those of the snake bones, it would at least fill their stomachs. The 7 of them started to eat without reserve. Although the red-scaled dragon snake did not have a high grade, but still, kings of demonic beasts were not commonly sold in the marketplace. Even Lu Yutong had only eaten such a delicacy twice. Even she, a princess of a great clan, was so, thus Lu Dong and his group were even more eager for such a rare meal. Not long after, they had drunk the whole pot of soup until nothing was left. They all felt that their stomachs were extremely full and bloated, as if even one more bite and they would burst. This was natural. The bone marrow of the red-scaled dragon snake was equivalent to an extremely nutritious medicine. They felt this way because they have had too much nutrition. The 7 of them quickly sat down in cross-legged positions and started to digest this extremely nutritious food. This could not help them advance their cultivation level, but would still help them strengthen their physiques. It was still extremely beneficial for them. Ling Han circulated the Indestructible Heaven Scroll to absorb the medicinal effects of all he had consumed into every part of his body. A golden light actually started to flicker from his body. However, this glow was very faint, and if you didn't pay attention, you'd miss it completely. It's great, he thought in his heart. The Indestructible Heaven Scroll could help him completely absorb all the benefits of what he had consumed, without wasting a single drop. It was common sense that the food one consumes could not possibly be absorbed completely by one's body, especially for this kind of extremely nutritious food. That was because if the medicinal effects were too strong, they could not be digested within a short period of time. However, after 1 or 2 days, due to the natural processes of the body, the nutrition would be naturally removed from one's body. How great of a waste was that? After I have finished digesting it, I'll definitely be able to cultivate the body of the dead tree from the dead tree tier. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 53. Body a Dead Tree. Another day passed. Ling Han suddenly opened his eyes, a pleased smile turning up at the corners of his lips. He drew his sword and lowered the blade in a slash at his extended left hand. If anyone had seen such a thing, they would definitely think he was committing self-mutilation, but after a while longer, they'd definitely be shocked to the point that their eyeballs were in danger of popping out of their heads, for as this slash encountered his hand, it did not leave a single scratch on his skin. The only proof of what he had done was a white line on his hand. Indeed, my defense has improved by a considerable amount, Ling Han nodded. Although he had not poured origin power into that strike just now, he had also not used origin power to strengthen his defense. He had depended entirely on his physique's innate defense without any external aid. He increased the power of the strike, and simultaneously began to circulate the Indestructible Heaven Scroll. The sword lowered once again in a slash, and this time it produced a gash on his hand. However, something even more bizarre appeared. Not a single drop of blood flowed from this gash. Ha ha, so this is the first layer of the Indestructible Heaven Scroll, the dead tree tier. The physical body would be like that of a dead tree, and even after being struck by a sword, the body would not bleed, nor would the essential life force be damaged. The smile on Ling Han's face became wider. The gash he himself had created was healing at a tremendously rapid pace and very quickly vanished. There wasn't even a mark left behind. This was an unbelievable feat. And this is only the body a dead tree. Ling Han could not help feeling a bit rueful. Once he reached rock cliff tier and formed body of rock cliff, then his skin would be as tough as rock. Even a heavy strike would not injure him one bit, as his defense would have once again been upgraded to a new level. Iron Sheet tier would be even more amazing, and his power would become even more tyrannical. But when he finally achieved Diamond tier, that'd be a fundamental change. Even a missing limb could be regrown, and his life force would be so powerful it would be practically beyond reasonable limits. According to the scroll, I'd be able to condense a drop of indestructible true fluid once I reach dead tree tier. In the future, no matter how heavy the injury I suffer, as long as I refine this indestructible true fluid, it'd heal instantly. Indestructible Heaven Scroll, it indeed lives up to its name. Ling Han did not immediately begin condensing the indestructible true fluid. This was a very time-consuming process, and was not something that could be completed successfully within a short period of time. Ha ha, once I've formed the body a dead tree, my last and only weakness would be eliminated. Ling Han was extremely overjoyed. In this world, there were certain races that were powerful from birth. One such example was the Four Winds race, who possessed jaw-dropping speed. Even their members who were only in element-gathering tier could be considered to be on even footing with gushing spring tier. Another example was the sword-armed race, whose arms could transform into sharp blades. The higher their cultivation level, the sharper and sturdier their blade arms. An even more powerful example would be the Wild Thunder race. Their members were born with lightning surrounding their bodies, and thus their attacks were terrifyingly powerful. This was labeled as special body constitution. Whether in his last life or in his current life, Ling Han did not have such special constitution, but the cultivation of the indestructible Heaven Scroll allowed him to acquire one. This was practically inconceivable, as it had broken the ironclad rules of nature. Body a dead tree could only be compared to some lower-grade special constitution, but if I actually managed to form body a diamond, then what race would actually be able to compare to this kind of special physical constitution? In this life, I am destined to be invincible, to walk the path no one has ever walked before, to shatter the void and become a god. Ling Han collected his stray thoughts and glanced over at Lu Dong and the rest. The essence of the bone marrow of the dragon snake drained very quickly. If it still could not be digested within a whole day and night, then there would only remain less than 1/10 of the nutrition in it. Thus, they practically wouldn't obtain much benefit at all. Indeed, not long after, Lu Yutong and the rest completed their refinement process, and stood up one by one. They were not cultivating the indestructible Heaven Scroll, so naturally, it was impossible to completely refine all the essence of the bone marrow. Still, all of them looked very pleased, as they had indeed obtained some benefits. Big Brother Ling, there are about 10 days left before the new year, so we have to return. After the new year, let us meet again at Dayuan City. Farewell. The five of them bade farewell to Ling Han and Lu Yutong. Though Chen Pengju seemed like he had something that he was hesitant to say. In the end, he still did not say a single word and, with Li Hao and his group, walked further and further away into the distance. Ling Han looked over at Lu Yutong and said, "How is it? How is your game?" "Very profitable." Lu Yutong nodded, her beautiful face showing a joy that was difficult to conceal. "My physical defense has improved to a whole new level, and my bones, as well as my muscle strength, have also improved considerably. If I battle with Cheng Wenkun now, I can guarantee that I'd be able to kill him within 10 moves." Demonic beasts that had a shred of a king's bloodline were much too rare, but the benefits they promised were also colossal. This was also why Ling Han had immediately raced over here once he had reached the peak period of the first layer of element gathering tier. If he managed to gain these benefits, then his actual power would naturally improve greatly, and the chances of victory at the Dayuan tournament at the beginning of the year would also increase dramatically. Even for the Lu clan that was considered one of the most powerful great clans of Rain Country, they still might not be able to get their hands on demonic beasts that had a king's bloodline. This kind of thing was completely dependent on fate and fortune. Ling Han took the second transcending origin pill and continued cultivation. He had also gifted Li Hao with 2 pills to give this young saber wielder a helping hand. However, just what extent Li Hao's future achievements would reach, that still depended on his own potential and willingness to work hard. After he had refined this transcending origin pill, he had also reached the peak period of the 3rd layer of element gathering tier. However, the effects of the transcending origin pill also ended here. It could not help him to advance any further than this. Normally, the higher one's cultivation level, the fewer pills there were that could actually help one advance their cultivation level. For example, for element gathering tier, a martial artist between the 4th and 6th layers needed to take revolving origin pill. However, this required the inner core of demonic beast kings that were in the gushing spring tier. 1. To use the inner core of a king in gushing spring tier to concoct a pill for a martial artist in element gathering tier was much too extravagant. He still had 6 transcending origin pills in his possession. He decided to hand them over to Ling Dongxing on their return home, and allow him to gift them to those exceptionally gifted clansmen within the clan. Let's also return home, Ling Han said to Lu Yutong. Lu Yutong graced him with an enchanting smile. Even she herself did not realize that her icy demeanor was slowly melting in front of Ling Han. The two of them left the Seven Wind Mountains and returned to the inn they had kept their horses at. After paying the fees, they urged their horses on a return journey towards Grey Cloud Town. They rode by day and rested by night. Ling Han took advantage of this time to begin condensing the indestructible true fluid and, after 2 days, formed a drop about the size of a grain of rice. Theoretically, the drop had to reach the size of a bean to be considered successfully condensed and possess the greatest possible effects, but it was still usable now, though the effects were definitely much, much weaker. Looks like I need about 10 days to condense a single drop. However, the Dayuan tournament is also at the beginning of next year, so there'd be enough time. This will become one of my trump cards. 7 days later, they had returned to Grey Cloud Town, and Ling Han had also successfully broken through to the 4th layer of element gathering tier. For him, this was really nothing too difficult. At this time, there were only about 3 days before the year's end, and almost all houses were decorated with lanterns and colored banners in preparation for celebrating the new year. The Ling clan residence was also filled with an air of celebration. Because Ling Zhongquan had died, the Ling clan was now completely under the control of Ling Dongxing. Everyone was united, giving off a brand new appearance. Young Master Han. Young Master Han. When Ling Han passed by, all servants he encountered greeted him respectfully. This young man, who was soon going to be 17 years old, was going to be the future backbone of the Ling clan, and no one dared to underestimate him anymore. Hannah, you've returned. Ling Dongxing revealed a relieved expression, which quickly transformed into one of shock, and said, your cultivation level seems to have improved greatly again. 4th layer of element gathering tier, Ling Han said with a smile. Ling Dongxing's expression became very colorful, though he did not gasp in surprise this time round. In the end, he finally settled on a wide smile that was filled with gratification. His son was freakishly talented. This was something he already knew. In the future, he only needed to feel gratified by Ling Han's continuous progress, and that would be enough. As a parent, wasn't this the greatest source of pride? After this, the only big event remaining was the celebration of the new year. Yet Ling Han did not relax, and continued to work hard at cultivation every single day. He concocted some spirit-gathering pills for himself. This pill allowed him to increase the rate of his cultivation, and while the help it gave him was not much, every little bit counted. Lu Yutong also displayed a strong talent in sword arts, and within a short period of more than 10 days, actually managed to form another flash of sword qi. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 54. Heading towards Dayuan City. Ling Han did not feel this was odd in any way. From the start, Lu Yutong was very talented in the field of martial arts. It was illogical that she had still not yet managed to form sword qi. Now that she has made a breakthrough in this area, it seemed as if the potential she had been accumulating gushed out in one go, producing excellent results. However, the third flash of sword qi would not be so easily formed. For Lu Yutong, she was already satisfied with being able to possess 2 flashes at the mere age of 18 and stepping into the ranks of young rulers. Moreover, she could be considered to be among the stronger, more powerful young rulers. The general level of martial arts in Rain Country was too low. You'd be praised as a ruler once you managed to form saber or sword qi. When the new year came, all the branch families of the Ling clan returned to the main clan residence to greet the coming of spring together. Normally, these external branch families had their own residences outside the main clan residence and were responsible for managing the clan's various businesses. Most of them were ordinary people. Only a few have stepped onto the path of cultivation. After all, for every 10 people there was only 1 person that actually possessed a spirit base. Big Brother Han, a little girl by the name of Ling Zixuan, kept following Ling Han around. After the new year, the little girl would only be 8 years old, yet she had already awoken her spirit base. Furthermore, it was a low-level Earth-grade spirit base. According to the rules of the clan, she was qualified to be enrolled in the Grey Cloud Academy, and the clan would provide her school fees as well as cultivation resources. Everyone knew that you wouldn't be able to protect your wealth if you didn't have enough power. As a result, every clan would carefully nurture the clansmen who were found to be gifted with talent to become martial artists. If there appeared a genius amongst these clansmen, it would also be a source of pride for the clan. Just like the 8 great clans of the imperial city, they had all been merely small clans which grew by choosing such a policy. There had been 3 members of the Ling clan that had been enrolled in the Grey Cloud Academy previously. Aside from Ling Han and Ling Muyun, there was another named Ling Zhidao. However, as he was now getting too old, after the new year, he would no longer attend the academy. Instead, he would join the clan guards. After a few years of gaining experience, he'd be promoted to assistant captain and then captain. Such an important post naturally had to be handed to a clansman for safety's sake. Meanwhile, as Ling Xuanhuan had awakened, after the new year, she would begin attending the Grey Cloud Academy. However, Ling Han had other plans. He could not possibly remain in Ling clan forever. He desired to climb to the summit of martial arts in the future, so Rain Country was too small for him. As a result, before he left, he needed to nurture as many talented people as possible to help his father relieve some of his worries. He has decided to bring Ling Xuanhuan to the imperial city and enroll her in the Huyang Academy. Ling Dongxing had already obtained a place of enrollment in Huyang Academy previously, and Ling Han definitely would be able to rank amongst the top 50 participants in the Dayuan tournament. In this manner, their clan would have 2 places. Of course, he did not intend to become the babysitter of the girl. He would definitely have her parents follow her to the imperial city to take care of her daily needs. "Why are you crying again?" Ling Han smiled, as he picked up the little girl. "Da Zhong is bullying Xuanhuan," the little girl said, full of grievances. "Big brother Han, you help Xuanhuan beat him up." Ling Han laughed heartily, patted the little girl's head, and said, "You and Da Zhong are both members of the Ling clan, so you must help and support one another. Our fists should be aimed at outsiders, and not used to beat our own people up." "But he said Xuanhuan is ugly," the little girl said, pouting. "Our family's Xuanhuan is so pretty. You're now a small beauty, and in the future, you'd be a great beauty. Da Zhong is only jealous of you," Ling Han said, smiling. The little girl was instantly cheered by such compliments, and clapping her hands, she said, "Xuanhuan is the most beautiful girl in the world." After a moment of thought, she realized this was a bit too arrogant, so she changed her words and said, "Big sister Yu Tong is the most beautiful, Xuanhuan is the second most beautiful." Ling Han gave a big laugh, and said to Lu Yutong, "She's praising you. Big sister Yutong, when are you and big brother Han getting married?" The little girl asked innocently, her head tilted. Lu Yutong instantly blushed at this. She swiftly turned around and ran off, causing Ling Xuanhuan to feel very puzzled. What was going on? "Xuanhuan, you've scared off my wife, how are you going to compensate me?" Ling Han deliberately frowned and said. Ling Xuanhuan bit at her fingernail, thought for a while, and said comfortingly to Ling Han, "Big brother Han, Xuanhuan will help you find a prettier big sister." She looked extremely mischievous when she said this. Ling Han could not hold back his laughter. Kids say what they like, and were innocent and adorable. It was too bad that this purity could not be preserved forever. After the New Year's celebration, Ling Dongxing, Ling Han and Lu Yutong all set off towards the Dayuan city to participate in the Dayuan tournament. Dayuan city was more than 800 miles away from Grey Cloud Town. The 3 of them hastened their journey, and 2 days later, they arrived outside Dayuan city. Compared with the small, tiny Grey Cloud Town, Dayuan city looked very imposing and grand. The city grounds extended over a few tens of miles, and the city walls were about 100 meters tall. It looked like a creeping colossal beast. There were 4 gates of entry into Dayuan city: north, east, south and west gates. Every day, there would be travelers coming in from all directions to this most bustling, most lively city within the nearest 1,000 miles. There were merchants, refugees and wandering martial artists here. The overall level of martial arts in the city was higher than the surrounding area by a whole new level. The current Da Yuan king was a powerful warrior of spiritual ocean tier, and according to rumors, he was also the only one in spiritual ocean tier, possessing ultimate power and prestige. Ling Han and his group arrived at the city gate. They did not have to be searched or go through any kind of security check. They only had to pay the city entrance fees, 1 silver coin per person. This was not very expensive for them, though for commoners, this would indeed be a very big sum. Within the city, there were many tall, grand buildings of various heights extending into the distance. It was the epitome of a king's city, stunning any new visitors to the city. Ling Dongxing had come here a long time ago, and had even left the country before, so he naturally would not be shocked. Lu Yutong came from the imperial city, so this was a common sight to her. The two of them had initially thought that Ling Han would be stunned by such a grand sight, yet Ling Han looked completely calm and unperturbed, shocking them. They went off in search of an inn. However, it seemed as if many had come to the city to participate in the upcoming Da Yuan tournament, and practically every inn was fully occupied. They walked around for over half a day, yet still had not managed to find a place of accommodation. Yi, Grandmaster Ling. They had been walking around on the main streets when they heard a surprised voice call out. A white-haired old man walked over to them. He was Zhu Hixin. So you're here, Ling Han said, smiling. Grandmaster Ling, I happened to receive an invitation from an old friend during the New Year, asking me to come visit. I hope Grandmaster Ling will forgive me for not paying you a visit during the New Year. Zhu Hixin bent slightly at the waist, a hint of fear on his face. He had already considered Ling Han as half his master, so he would naturally be fearful that he had caused Ling Han's displeasure. Ling Han shook his head and smiled, and said, You don't need to call me Grandmaster, you can just call me by my name in future. In this life, he had already decided to start from a minor character and walk firmly and sturdily onwards, battling various so-called geniuses to improve himself. Otherwise, if he continued to be a Grandmaster alchemist, then due to the grand, noble status accorded to an alchemist, which genius would dare to spar with him? This, Zhu Hixin shook his head continuously. He was a person who was reverent of his master and his teaching. Ling Han had granted him a kindness in guiding him before, so in his heart, Ling Han was already his teacher. To directly address your teacher by his name without any kind of honorific, this was practically disgraceful. Don't say this or that. It's decided. If you call me Grandmaster in future, then I'd really be angry. Ling Han deliberately put on a stern face and said in a half-joking manner. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 55. Introduction. Zhu Hixin could not help feeling troubled, yet once he saw the determined expression Ling Han had on his face, he could only nod his head and say, I shall obey Grandmaster's, no, young friend Ling's words. In the end, he still could not bear addressing Ling Han without any honorific. At least the address, young friend Ling, sounded more polite. Oh, right, is young friend Ling here to take part in the Da Yuan tournament? Zhu Hixin asked. Ling Han gave a nod, and said, We aren't very fortunate, we still have yet to find a place of accommodation. Then why not come and stay at our Heaven's Medicine Pavilion? Zhu Hixin's eyes immediately lit up and suggested to Ling Han. Is that suitable? Ling Han had walked around for over half a day, so he really didn't want to tire himself anymore. Suitable. Of course it's suitable. Zhu Hixin said quickly. To be able to stay near to Grandmaster Ling, he'd be able to conveniently ask Grandmaster Ling for guidance in alchemy. Then we shall trouble you, Ling Han said, smiling. It's no trouble at all. Zhu Hixin walked in the lead, guiding him to the branch of Heaven's Medicine Pavilion in the city. Unlike the small branch of Heaven's Medicine Pavilion in Grey Cloud Town, Dayuan City's branch of Heaven's Medicine Pavilion was actually a heavily guarded, gigantic palace, and there were about 100 alchemists stationed here. These alchemists were in charge of concocting a massive amount of pills every day, which were then delivered to be sold at places like Grey Cloud Town and Guo Rock Town. Ma Dajun of the Grey Cloud Town's branch of Heaven's Medicine Pavilion was only in charge of overseeing things, and usually, he did not have to concoct any pills. Usually, these characters had lower rate of successfully concocting pills, so if they were given the same medicinal ingredients to be concocted into pills, it would be too much of a waste. Low-level black-grade alchemists similarly had a very high, noble status in this place. All guards as well as the alchemists made their salutations respectfully when they saw Zhu Hixin approach. The branch master of this branch of Heaven's Medicine Pavilion was called Zhang Weishan. He was also a low-level black-grade alchemist and had been friends with Zhu Hixin for many years. In the past, both had entered Heaven's Medicine Pavilion at the same time, and through many years of motivating and competing with each other, both managed to become low-level black-grade alchemists. Young friend Ling, I have a presumptuous request, Zhu Hixin said a bit embarrassedly after he had made arrangements for them to reside there temporarily. You've encountered some problem in alchemy, Ling Han said with a smile. He. Zhu Hixin was a bit embarrassed. Although he was already quite old, but in front of Ling Han, it seemed as if he was only a young brat who had just entered the field of alchemy. He did not think this was anything odd though. He said, not me, it's an old friend of mine. He managed to obtain an old formula. However, because of the long passage of time, there are some words that can no longer be clearly read from the old formula. Thus, he has encountered some trouble when he attempted to concoct the pill. Ling Han suddenly understood and said, you want me to help you write down the complete formula. I hope for young friend's guidance, Zhu Hixin said. The name of this pill formula is reverse pill, and it's very effective for healing wounds. If this formula is able to see the light again, then many people will be saved. So it was reverse pill. Could it be that even such ordinary medicinal pills have already been lost in the passage of time? Ling Han felt that this was really strange. Whether martial arts, or alchemy, with accumulated studies and research of every generation, these two fields should have become stronger and stronger. Yet why had so many pill formulas been lost in the passage of time? He nodded, and said, then I'll go take a look. This way please, Grandmaster. Zhu Hixin immediately switched back to using honorifics. Only after the words left his mouth did he react and change his words as he said, young friend, this way, please. The two of them walked side by side and soon arrived at a residence in the palace courtyard. The door was ajar, and there were 3 people within, 2 old men and a young girl. The 2 old men were both seated and drinking tea while the young girl was standing behind one of the old men. The young girl appeared to be about 16 or 17 years old. She was quite delicate and pretty. However, one corner of her mouth was slightly uplifted, and her big, black eyes looked extremely intelligent, so on the whole, she looked rather crafty. Seeing Zhu Hixin, the 2 old men stood and smiled in greeting. Old man Zhu, let me introduce someone to you. One of the old men hurried over, and pointing at the other old man, said, this is Xuanmu Changfeng. Brother Xuanmu has been praised to excel at both alchemy and sword arts. His sweeping cloud sword art is the best in the whole of Rain Country. You've admired him for a long time, right? When Zhu Hixin heard this, there was no way he could introduce Ling Han immediately. He raised his clasped hands in Xuanmu Changfeng's direction, and said, Brother Xuanmu, it's an honor to meet you at last. Ha, Brother Zhu, I heard that you had improved the wind and fire pill just recently. I've long wanted to come and meet you, and today I've finally gotten the chance to, Xuanmu Changfeng said with a smile. The other old man was naturally Zhang Weishan. Brother Xuanmu, old man Zhang, let me introduce someone to you. This is, Zhu Hixin intended to introduce Ling Han to the 2 of them. Old Man Zhu, now that I've invited brother Xuanmu here, perhaps with the combined efforts of the three of us, we may be able to patch up the pill formula for reverse pill within 3 months, Zhang Weishan said excitedly. Let me introduce. Ha ha. Brother Zhang, you speak too highly of me. My main focus is on sword arts, and I have only lightly studied about alchemy. The main workforce will still be the two of you. I will just suggest ideas from one side, Xuanmu Changfeng said, once again interrupting Zhu Hixin. The two old men had naturally thought that Ling Han was a junior of Zhu Hixin, and so did not really pay attention to him. At that moment, the young girl walked over to Ling Han, and walked 2 circles around him. She kept making a clicking noise with her mouth, as if she was making some kind of appraisal. Are you Grandmaster Zhu's disciple? The young girl asked. No. Ling Han shook his head. Oh, then you must not have passed Grandmaster Zhu's test yet. The young girl thought that she was being very conscientious, and in a very mature, experienced manner patted Ling Han's shoulder, and said, I have already been received by Grandmaster Zhang as a disciple, so I will be your elder sister disciple in future. Don't worry, I'll definitely take care of you. If anyone dares to bully you, just announce my name. Ling Han could not help smiling, and said, announce what name? Yeah, you don't even know who I am. The young girl pressed one hand to her forehead, and shook her head repeatedly. Ai, what rural village did you pop out from? I am Xuanhuan, the 7th princess of the royal house of Da Yuan. Ling Han gave an, oh. A mere princess was not someone who would make him lose his composure. Hey, what attitude is that? I am your elder sister disciple. Xuanhuan said angrily. My 2 brothers, let me introduce to you an exceptional genius of alchemy. It was only now that Zhu Hixin managed to find an opportunity to introduce Ling Han. He walked over to Ling Han and said, this here is Ling Han, young friend Ling. To tell you the truth, the wind and fire pill was successfully completed under the guidance of young friend Ling. If not for his assistance, it may have taken a few years before I could finally complete improving the pill. What? Zhang Weishan and Xuanmu Zhangfeng were both dumbfounded. They looked at Ling Han and turned to look at Zhu Hixin, feeling that all this was too unreal. Xuanhuan covered her gaping mouth with one hand. She had previously taken Ling Han to be Zhu Hixin's junior, but in the blink of an eye, he had become Grandmaster Zhu's young friend, then wouldn't that mean he was her senior? Old Man Zhu, you're kidding, right? Zhang Weishan called out immediately. Zhu Hixin's expression turned solemn and said, how could I possibly joke about this kind of matter? Zhang Weishan and Xuanmu Changfeng once again turned back to look at Ling Han, and this time, their stares were completely different. End of the chapter. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao will be read in 5 chapters for every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.